and thank you for watching The Righteous Kitchen, a cooking and baking blog found at www.therighteouskitchen.blogspot.com. Today I am going to show you my recipe for Beerocks. Now Beerocks is a pocket sandwich. It has a meat filling with cabbage and onions. Now these are very popular in California where I live, and these were really popular, or should I say I discovered them in the 1980s. They were everywhere. We had a couple of Beerocks shops in town. They sold them at bakeries. They were in the deli department at local grocery stores. And when you went to the fair, you always looked forward to having a Beerock. Nowadays, they're not as popular. I don't think many bakeries sell them anymore. There's only one Beerocks shop, and I don't remember the last time I found one of these at the local fair. So, a little bit of history is this is a Volga German origin. Now, the Volga Germans came to the Americas in the 1840s, I think, somewhere around there. And they settled in the Midwest, and that's why these are popular in Kansas and in Nebraska. And Nebraska calls these runzes. So as the Germans expanded and their reach grew further, they made it, you know, just all over the country, and then they made it to the West Coast, and then that's why you'll find them here in California. So like I said, they're not as popular as when I first discovered them, but that's okay. You know, things happen like that, so that's why it's good to know how to cook and to do things on your own. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm making a double recipe, so I'm gonna be using 2 pounds of meat, and I'm gonna use a whole head of cabbage for that. And I'm just gonna cut that in half, and then I'm gonna quarter it. Then we're gonna go in there and kind of angle that and get the core out. And give it a quick chop. All right. For a single recipe for 1 pound of meat, you would just use a half of a head of cabbage. And I'm just going to give this a quick chop. And I'll just set it over here to the side. So that is the prep for our vegetables. It's over to the side. And we're back at the mixer, and I'm getting ready to fortify the ground turkey. And I do this every time that I cook with ground turkey, and I want it to taste like ground beef. So for every pound of ground turkey, you're gonna add 1 tablespoon of dehydrated ground mushroom powder. And I just get a bag of dried mushrooms and grind them at home. And then you're going to use 1 tablespoon of the kitchen bouquet browning and seasoning sauce. And I use it so much, I just invested in the big bottle. So that goes into your ground turkey. Now, the ground turkey I always use is Jennie-O. It's 93% lean, 7% fat. And we use the ground turkey as a substitute for replacing the 80-20 ground beef that I would normally use. All right, so I do use the mixer, especially if the meat is really cold. It just saves your hands from getting super cold by mixing it all up. And what this does is it not only transforms the flavor to beef, but it actually changes the color. So now with that browning sauce, your meat, when it cooks up, it's going to be brown like hamburger. So it's a nice visual. I'm going to go ahead and start frying everything up. Okay, I have this electric skillet heating up, and I just want to coat it with some cooking oil. And then I have the ground turkey. All right, so we're going to cook this until the meat is cooked through, and then I'll come back and we'll cook the cabbage. Meat has, mostly cooked up, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding in the cabbage. Work it a little bit at a time. What I'm going to do is put the lid on this, let it wilt down, and then I'll come back and add some more. I'm going to check on this and give it some turns. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add some more. All right, a few more minutes with the lid on. As this is cooking down, I'm going to get this last bit of cabbage in here. Now, if it gets too much for your pan, you could wait till it cooks down and transfer some of it over to a large bowl. But I think this will be fine. We'll just continue to let it cook down. Okay, just be patient with this cabbage as it cooks down. You're going to want to make sure that it's all softened up. These last few minutes that it cooks, I'm going to not put the lid on. I want some of this liquid to evaporate. Now I still have this on about 350 degrees. To get that spatula, and I really want to get in here and make sure nothing's going to be sticking as that water evaporates. Okay, this is really cooked down now, and you just go in here with your spatula and press it down and make sure that the cabbage, the larger pieces, you want to make sure that the spatula will just cut right through them. And I've been letting some of the liquid that's come from the meat and from the cabbage, I've been letting some of that cook off. But if you're using ground beef and there's fat, and even now when there's this liquid on here, I like to strain it really well. So just get a colander and put it in a large mixing bowl, because you want all the grease and all the liquid out of this filling. And you'll notice we didn't put any seasoning on it yet. We'll do that after everything's minced. Now there is the option, if you don't want it minced, you could keep it this texture here, and then after the liquid strain, you could add your spices. Some people do prefer that. To me, I can't seem to get enough filling that I like in the sandwich, so that's why I mince it. So in this bowl here, I'm going to let it strain very well, and I'm also going to let it cool down. Okay, I have the strained meat filling, and I wanted to show you. This is using lean ground turkey, and this is just water that's come off of there from the cabbage and the meat. We don't want that in our filling, so I'm just going to go ahead and discard that. Even if you use ground beef, you're going to get the fat and the liquid. So just strain it, whatever you do. Just make sure it's strained. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this bowl, and we're going to use it to put our minced filling after we grind it here. All right, so I have my blade in, and let me get a large spoon. It's going to work better. Okay, we're just going to quickly mince this. That looks pretty good. And I'll get you a close-up of what that looks like when we get this done. Okay, there it is. So now you can see how everything is blended together. And that's what the mince looks like. You can still tell it's cabbage in there and the meat, but it's gonna let the filling be more compact so that we could put more into our sandwich. All right, so at this point is when we're gonna go ahead and add the spices. I am doubling this because in typical fashion, once this video comes out, my whole family is gonna want this. So let's get the seasonings. Okay, these are just pretty standard seasonings. We have Worcestershire sauce, salt, heavy on the pepper, and garlic. Okay, so we need a tablespoon of pepper. Okay, we need, hold on, a teaspoon of salt. I'm not using the reduced sodium salt, I'm using sea salt. I'm gonna start with 1 teaspoon and I'll taste it and see how it is after that. And then we need a teaspoon, actually 2 teaspoons of garlic, granulated garlic. And then 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And see why we took out all that liquid? Because we're adding this in, and this is going to be more concentrated. So we just want to mix this in here. Now see how this ground turkey cooked up? It looks exactly like hamburger. I haven't had anyone yet that doesn't know that it isn't hamburger. They all think it's hamburger. Let me give you a little tip here. I see this done wrong a lot, and it's one of my pet peeves. When you need to taste a recipe, you don't, use a spoon and stick it back in there, or get 4,500 different spoons and keep tasting and dirtying all the spoons. You have a tasting bowl, you put some in here, and then you use your tasting spoon. That tastes pretty darn good. I'm gonna put another teaspoon of salt. It called for 2 teaspoons, but I always like to wait because it has the Worcestershire sauce. And I'm gonna put 1 more tablespoon of that in. Okay, now see how I'm going to need to taste it again? So I use my same utensils. That way we're not getting any contamination into our food. Okay, that's it. This filling is done. Tastes great. But what I'm going to need to do is I need to prep 3 recipes of my crescent rolls. And so I'll do that tonight and then come back tomorrow morning and we'll roll these out. Good morning, everyone. I am back and I am back to work on these Beerocks. And I wanted to show you, this is my Dutch oven. It has 3 batches of the crescent roll recipe in here. And before I went to bed last night, I did have to punch the air out of these, and then I just put them back in here. So they did great. In the Dutch oven, everything was contained. We didn't have any poofing out of the bag or anything like that. So that worked great. Generally, having your dough in the refrigerator gives it a nice slow rise. So it really came in handy for 3 batches worth. So I'm going to pop these others back in the refrigerator. This dough has the consistency of taffy. It's really nice to work with once it's been refrigerated. Sometimes you need to readjust your scale. It'll get a little off on you. Okay. What we're doing is just cutting off pieces of the dough. And we're measuring out 4-ounce pieces. So if you get a little bit more, just take off the extra. All right, that's a 4 ounce. It's about the size of a plum. And I am just setting it on this tray. All right, I'm going to move this off to this side. We got 10 portions. And what you're going to want to do is keep these covered so they don't dry out. And I have my prepared filling, and it's been refrigerated overnight. So what I'm going to have is, I've got a scoop to measure the filling. I got a bench scraper here to kind of keep everything tidy with the dough. And I have some all-purpose flour. And then I have another baking tray to line up the Beerocks on the baking sheet. A little bit of flour on the board. Just kind of lightly coat that so you could work with it. The dough's really nice. So see this smooth end? There's always a smooth end and then there's this wrinkly end. Smooth side down, that's your pretty side. So we want to roll this into a 6-inch circle. Now I'm going to take, get a little bit bigger. This French rolling pin is nice for this. But I'm just going to go and taper the edge. And that's going to help me when I put the seams together, so it's not going to be too bulky. So just kind of do that, and see how it's a little more puffy in the middle? That's what you want. All right, so we've got the old-fashioned ice cream scoops are perfect to get your filling on here. Okay. So here's the filling. You want to keep it all together. So here's what we do. Bring these two to the center, give them a pinch, and then bring one end up to that center, pinch it, and then see how it goes out on the sides, it fans out. Just pinch that together. All right, so you're bringing it up to the center, and then you just pinch it. You want to make sure that there's no holes. So it's going to look like this. Okay. Then I like to just bring these dog ears in. And then I turn it around and just kind of shape it into an oval. And you press it with your hands. That's the traditional shape, an oval. Okay? So just lay that on your baking tray. And then you'll want to, you know, if you see any pieces of that filling that's come out on the board, you want to have that clean for the next one to come through. Now see why I did the mince? I find it easier to work with it, you know, in smaller pieces instead of hunks of filling. So let me show you. Step 1, bring it to the center. Step 2 is bring the second to the center. And then press the sides. All right, so you got step 1, step 2, step 3. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to shape it as 4. You're lightly pressing the top. You want to keep that nice smooth finish on it, and then lay it on your baking tray. So this is our first batch of Beerocks, and all you do is just let them rise, and I have them all spaced apart. Let's see if I can get it covered. And I just put this in an area off to the side where no one's going to bother it. So just let that sit for about half an hour before you put it in the oven. And I'm going to go ahead now and preheat my oven to 350. I'm going to show you how to make them square if that is your preference. Those are cute too. We're still going to roll them out and get these sides tapered. 1/4 cup of the filling. Clean up this board because you don't want filling pieces to get on the dough. So everything in here. All right. To the sides and press. Bring it to the center. Press your seams down. Other side. Bring it to the center. Press it. I like to pick it up and then make sure everything is pinched good. So it looks like that. And so all you do is just tuck in the corners and then put it like a rectangle. So that's a nice presentation also. Now in the time that it took me to roll out that second batch and preheat the oven, this first batch is ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in, and I'm going to put these in here till they're nice and golden brown. So they went in at 727. So we'll see how long it takes. That first batch of Beerocks have been baking for about 30 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and take them out. In the meantime, I've been just rolling out more. Let's see here. And I'm almost done rolling out my third tray. These have baked up beautifully. Now they've been in there exactly 30 minutes and they're nice and golden brown. And I have the second tray that I did the square shapes. I'm going to go ahead and put them in now. But let's just take a moment to look these over. So I like that they're nice and even brown. And I like that there's no cracking on the tops and you can't see the filling coming over the tops. These are some nice looking Beerocks. I don't think you could ask for a better looking Beerock than that. Perfect. I'm gonna get a cooling rack. Let's see my setup here. I'm just gonna let these cool down on the baking tray. They're very hot, but look at that. Beautiful. Mercy. And then when I get these other rolled out, then I'll put them right on this tray. Here they are. They smell fantastic. And if you just do, like I said, I'm rolling them out, you want to keep that puffy center, taper out the edges, and that's going to give you a nice top on these without any cracking. So I'm going to let these cool off, and I'm going to finish up baking my other 2 batches. Here's a tip for you when you run out of baking trays. Just put your parchment on the counter. Then when your tray becomes free again, just simply go over here and slide very carefully everything onto your tray. And that's it. I just pulled another batch of Beerocks from the oven. Look at this. That's nice. Look at these gorgeous Beerocks. You guys, you need to make some of these. They're just very satisfying when somebody can perfect a recipe and then test the recipe for consistency. You'll find with my recipes, they've been tested, they're consistent. You're gonna get the same result every time you make these as long as you follow the recipe. And that's why I'm now doing videos to walk you through the entire process. My goal for you is to have great results. I want you to have the same results that I have. So just follow these tips, use the recipe, you know, and keep at it until you get these kind of results. I mean, years went into this, but you don't have to spend 10, 20, 30 years hounding your recipe and just nailing it. I'm bringing it to you already tested and true, all right? The only way you could fail is not to make it. So I'm gonna come back with some more photos for this. I've got my last tray in the oven and I'll take some photos for you. Okay, I am getting my last batch of Beerocks out of the oven. I made 3 trays full. There we go. I made 3 trays. I did some traditional oval shaped and then I did some square shaped. And let's see how many I got. I ended up with 31 Beerocks. that was using 3 recipes of the crescent roll recipe and then 2 recipes of the meat filling. And I just had a little bit of meat filling left, about enough for another Beerrock. So it's just gonna depend. So if you want, you know, approximately 30 Beerocks, you'd use 3 recipes of the dough and 2 of the meat. Here are the completed Beerocks. It was a very good baking day. Everything turned out great. I did want to mention real quick that these are great to store in the freezer. To do that, I individually wrap them in plastic wrap, and then I seal them for long-term storage using the food saver bags. Just write what it is and the date. And what's nice about this newer food saver model that I have is I don't have to wait till these are frozen and then bag them. This new one, it pulls out the air, and then I can stop it and seal it right at whatever point I want. So I already sealed it before they're smashing. Now I can just put them in the freezer. So this is a great freezer recipe. I want to share one serving suggestion, and I learned this from my son-in-law. He puts butter smeared right over the top. And it's really good. It's hard to eat it with your hand after you do that. So let me cut into it and show you. That's good. Look at all that dough that's holding all the filling inside. Now go look on the internet at Beerocks. You're not going to find it. You're going to see them thin. You're going to see the filling popping out, bumpy. This has a perfect ratio of dough and filling. That's why you need to make this recipe. Look at that. It doesn't get much better than that, folks. That is a darn good Beerrock. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you do follow this recipe, please share with us in the comments how it worked out for you. Thank you for watching.